I never thought I'd be sitting here, typing out a story like this, but here I am. My name's Jake, and I want to share what happened because maybe someone out there needs to hear it, or maybe I just need to get it off my chest. My marriage with Lisa was, for the most part, fine, or so I thought. We'd been together for about 8 years, married for 5. She's always been a bit of a bitch, loud, bossy, sarcastic, but I loved her, or I thought I did. We had our issues, sure, but I never suspected she'd do something so trashy. About 3 months ago, we signed up for this couple's therapy retreat. It sounded good at the time, just some weekend to reconnect, get some help, maybe fix what was falling apart. Honestly, I was feeling pretty distant from Lisa lately, and I figured maybe this could help us. The retreat was in a nice spot, secluded, surrounded by woods, with a big meditation garden where we were supposed to do some of the relationship healing sessions. I noticed she was acting kinda weird before we even left. She'd snap at me more often, brush off my attempts to talk and spend a lot of time texting. I kind of brushed it off. Maybe she was just stressed, or maybe she was bored with me. The first sign that something was seriously wrong came when I started noticing little things. Her phone going off at weird times, her getting defensive if I looked at her messages, and her being oddly distant during the retreat. She kept saying she was tired or needed me time, but I could tell she was hiding something. Then I saw her on her phone late at night, not just texting but something more intense. She gotten into this long conversation with someone I didn't recognize. The tone was flirty, maybe even more than that. I wanted to confront her then, but I held back. I figured maybe it was just some innocent thing, a friend she was catching up with. But then I started noticing her scent, different, more perfume than usual, and that weird blush she'd get when she thought I wasn't looking. It was unsettling. One evening, I caught her in the meditation garden after hours. I was just walking around, trying to clear my head, when I saw her sitting with someone I'd never seen before. It took me a second to realize who he was, Tom, our marriage counselor's husband. I saw them close, whispering, and I felt this punch in my gut. They were so into each other, like they were the only two people in the world. I don't know how I missed the signs before. How could I be so blind? The truth hit me hard. She was cheating on me. That moment in the garden was like a blow to the chest. I froze, watching them for a second longer, not sure whether I should say something or just walk away. But I felt everything crash down all at once, the betrayal, the shame, the anger. I wanted to scream, to yell at her, but I also just wanted to run. Instead, I snapped a quick photo with my phone, enough to prove what I'd seen. And I did nothing then because I knew I needed to think. I went back to the cabin, heart pounding, trying to process what I just saw. How the hell did Lisa get herself into this mess? Why Tom, of all people, our counselor's husband? It felt like my life was unraveling right there. I could believe I was married to someone who would cheat during a supposed relationship healing retreat of all places. The irony isn't lost on me. That night, I stayed awake, staring at the photo I took, feeling this mix of heartbreak and rage. I kept asking myself how long this had been going on, how many times she'd lied to my face about everything, and whether I was just too blind to see it. The betrayal was bad enough, but the fact that she'd lie so easily, dismiss everything as nothing, just made it worse. I was furious. I wanted to confront her right then, but I also knew I needed to hold my cards. I needed a plan. I couldn't just lose it, at least not yet. I had to figure out what I was going to do with this knowledge, and that's what's brought me here, writing this. Because I need some perspective, and honestly, I don't know what to do next. The next morning, I woke up feeling sick. My stomach was churning, my head pounding, part from lack of sleep, part from the realization that everything I thought I knew about Lisa was a lie. I kept replaying the scene in the garden over and over, trying to make sense of it. How long had this been going on? Was I just blind, or was she really that good at hiding it? I couldn't believe I'd been so stupid, so naive. She's always been the manipulative one in the relationship, bitchy, dismissive, lying through her teeth. And now I saw the proof that she'd been sneaking around with Tom, who I thought was just a professional. Turns out he's just as much a snake. I decided I had to confront her. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I didn't want to be the guy who gets cheated on and just walks away, but I also couldn't stay silent. I was furious, but I knew I had to stay rational. I waited until she was in the shower, then I took a deep breath and started planning what I'd say. I wanted her to own it, to admit she was lying, cheating, and a manipulative bitch. I wanted to see the truth come out of her own mouth, not just catch her in a lie again. When she came out of the bathroom, I looked her dead in the eyes, trying to hold my anger in check. I pulled out my phone and showed her the picture I took in the garden. Her face instantly turned red and she looked like she'd been caught in the act. For a second she tried to deny it, to brush it off like it was no big deal. "Jake, I don't know what you saw, but you're overreacting. It's just a counselor thing, a misunderstanding." "Oh, come on, Lisa." I cut her off sharply. "That's Tom, our counselor's husband, and you're telling me it's just a misunderstanding. You're cheating on me with him." She scoffed, rolling her eyes. "You're crazy. I was just talking with him in the garden, that's all. You're always so paranoid. God, I can't stand how you're always accusing me of things." I cut her off again. "Don't give me that. I saw you two sitting so close, whispering, acting like you're the only two people in the world. How stupid do you think I am? Or maybe you just don't care anymore because you've been screwing him." She sneered at me. "You don't know what you're talking about. You're just jealous because I'm prettier than any of these other women you think I'm cheating on you with." That was it. The bitchy, dismissive attitude. She always had this way of turning things around, making herself the victim. That's what made me so mad. But I pushed through the anger and asked her, "Is it true? Were you having sex with him?" Her eyes flickered and she hesitated for a second. Then she rolled her eyes again, shrugging. "Maybe, maybe not. Whatever, Jake. You're just insecure. You always think I'm doing something wrong. You're so boring, maybe I needed some excitement. Is that what you want to hear?" I felt like I'd been punched again. Her words, her attitude, she didn't even care. It was like she was proud of it. I don't know if it was the shock or the disgust, but I suddenly saw her for what she really was. A selfish, manipulative bitch who didn't care about our marriage, only about herself. I needed space. I told her I was done talking and left the room, feeling numb but also furious. That day I couldn't focus on anything else. Everything felt surreal. I kept questioning myself. How did I miss all of this? Why did I stay so long? Did I mean anything to her at all? The fact that she was so quick to dismiss it, to lie and act like I was overreacting, just made me more sure that I couldn't trust her anymore. I was hurt deeply, but I also knew I had to do something. I couldn't just sit there and let her keep lying and cheating. There had to be a way to turn this around, to make her pay for what she'd done. I just didn't know what that was yet. As the day went on, I started piecing together a plan. I had the evidence, I had her reaction, and I knew I couldn't go back to pretending everything was fine. I decided I'd wait until I was calm enough to confront her again, maybe with a lawyer, maybe with some other kind of plan. For now, I needed to keep my cool and figure out what the next step was. Because once I made up my mind, I was going to make her regret ever crossing me. That's what this is about now: revenge, justice, and finally putting an end to her bullshit. After that confrontation, I did sleep much that night. I kept replaying everything in my head: her sneering, her lies, the way she dismissed what I saw like I was some paranoid fool. Part of me wanted to just blow up and yell at her, to accuse her of every lying, cheating thing I suspected. But I knew that wouldn't get me anywhere. I needed to be smarter than her, to play this game carefully. The next morning, I decided I couldn't just confront her again without a plan. I started gathering more evidence, screenshots of her texts, copying some of the emails she'd been sending Tom, and even trying to get a hold of some of her phone logs. I was furious, but I also knew I had to be strategic. Whatever I was going to do, I wanted to hit her where it hurt the most, emotionally and psychologically. I didn't want to just divorce her and walk away. I wanted to make sure she understood what she threw away. I remembered from the retreat, there was a large group session scheduled that afternoon, one of those relationship healing workshops. I figured I could use that opportunity to confront her publicly, to force her into a corner. I wasn't just going to call her out in private. I wanted her to face her betrayal in front of everyone, to see how exposed and humiliated she'd become. I knew it was risky, but I also knew she thrived on bullshit, on denial. If I could make her own lies backfire on her, maybe she'd crack. Before that, I sent her a message, just a simple, cold text. We need to talk. Now. I watched her read it, then she looked up at me with that bitchy smirk she always had. She knew I wasn't going to let this slide. She replied with a quick fine, and I could tell she was already dismissing it as just another one of my paranoid outbursts. The afternoon came quickly. I sat in the workshop room, feeling the weight of everything I'd uncovered. When Lisa finally walked in, she looked annoyed, like I was interrupting her fun. I suddenly felt this surge of satisfaction. She was going to get her dose of reality. When the group was settled, I stood up and, without warning, pulled out the photos and evidence I'd kept. I started talking, loud enough for everyone to hear, telling everyone how I'd caught my wife cheating on me with our marriage counselor's husband, Tom. I played the voice recordings I'd secretly made of her lying to her friends, lying to me. I showed the text messages, the emails, everything. Her face turned white, then red. She tried to deny it, to laugh it off, but I wasn't having it. I wanted everyone to see her for what she really was, a dishonest, manipulative bitch who'd been screwing around behind my back. I saw some of the other couples in the room stare in shock, some looking uncomfortable, others angry. That's when I saw Tom in the back trying to slip out, but I called him out too. "You're not innocent in this either, Tom. You're married and you're cheating with my wife. How pathetic can you get?" The room erupted into whispers. I hadn't planned to do all this, but it felt right. I could see Lisa trying to come up with some sort of excuse, but I cut her off. "Don't bother. We all know what you've been doing. You're a liar, Lisa. You lied to me, to your friends, to everyone, and I'm done." I sat down, feeling exhausted but victorious, like I finally took control of the situation. The aftermath was intense. Lisa looked furious, humiliated, and maybe a little scared. I saw tears in her eyes for the first time, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of anger. She started shouting, calling me a jealous, paranoid fool, saying I was ruining everything. But the thing is, I didn't care anymore. I had what I needed: proof, exposure, and the confidence to walk away. That night I couldn't sleep again. The adrenaline was still coursing through my veins. I felt empty but also strangely relieved. I'd done what I had to do. I'd finally confronted her, not just with words but with undeniable proof. I realized that sometimes the truth needs a loud voice to be heard, and I wasn't going to hide from it anymore. I knew this was just the beginning of what was going to be a long, painful process, but for now I felt a strange sense of liberation. I was finally free from her lies, from her betrayal, and from the illusion that we had a real marriage. The days that followed were a blur. After exposing Lisa in front of everyone at the retreat, I thought I'd feel relief, like I finally got everything out in the open. But honestly, it just made everything messier. The aftermath was chaos. Some couples shook their heads, others looked at her with disgust, and the whole atmosphere in that place changed overnight. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but I knew I'd made my point. Still, the sting of betrayal lingered deep inside. Lisa didn't take it well. She yelled, called me every name in the book, and tried to spin it into some kind of conspiracy. She kept insisting it was all a misunderstanding, that I'd misinterpreted everything. But I knew better now. I had the evidence, and I wasn't about to let her minimize what she'd done. Still, I couldn't stop thinking about how she'd lied so effortlessly, how she'd convinced herself she was invincible. That night, I decided I needed to get away, clear my head. I drove out to the woods nearby, parked my car, and just sat there on the hood. The silence was deafening, but it gave me space to breathe. I started reflecting on the relationship, how I'd ignored the warnings for so long, how I'd always been the one trying to fix things while she played her games. I realized I'd been a fool for so long, giving her the benefit of the doubt when she was just using me. And yet, even as I was feeling this crushing disappointment, a small part of me was beginning to feel angry, really angry. I'd let her get away with so much, and now she was trying to spin it all into some victim story. I knew I had to draw a line somewhere. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay just because I was hurt. I started thinking about what I'd do next, how to protect myself, how to move forward without her dragging me down. The hardest part was facing the thought that she might try to come back, maybe to manipulate me into staying or making me doubt what I saw. She's good at that. But I also knew I couldn't let her do that anymore. I had to stand firm, even if it meant walking away from everything I'd built with her. I wasn't going to be the guy who's been betrayed and just accepts it. No, I was done being the victim. Over. The next few days, I kept busy with work trying to keep a normal routine, but every little thing reminded me of her. Her voice, her attitude, the lies. I caught myself staring at her social media, seeing how she was spinning her side of things, trying to portray herself as the innocent victim, the wronged wife. That made me angrier. She wasn't sorry. She was just trying to save her own skin. I also started reaching out to some friends, people I trusted, to get their opinion. Most of them told me to cut her loose, to file for divorce, and to move on. I wasn't ready to make any final decisions yet, but I was leaning that way. I knew I couldn't let her keep controlling the narrative, especially not with her bitchy attitude and constant lies. If I was going to do this right, I'd need to be clear-headed and strategic. One thing I realized, this whole experience had changed me. I'd gone from a guy who thought he was doing okay in his marriage to someone who saw through all the bullshit. I was angry, yes, but also determined. I wasn't going to be a sucker anymore. I was going to protect myself from her lies, her manipulations, and her betrayals. I knew I had to get out, but I also wanted her to know I wasn't weak, that I'd caught her, exposed her, and I was done. So I started making plans. Legal stuff, mostly getting a lawyer, figuring out how to get her out of the house, and preparing for the inevitable fallout. I knew she'd fight, try to twist things around, but I was ready for that. I'd show everyone what she really was, an unfaithful, selfish woman who thought she could screw around and get away with it. Honestly, I don't know where this is going next. Part of me feels numb, part of me feels like I've just begun, and part of me is scared of what's to come. But one thing, for sure, I'm not going to stay silent anymore. I've done enough hiding, enough pretending. I've finally faced the truth, and now I'm going to do what I should have done from the start, protect myself and move on from her lies. The weeks that followed were some of the hardest of my life. I was in this strange limbo, angry, hurt, betrayed, but also strangely relieved that I finally knew the truth. I started the legal process to divorce Lisa, though I kept it quiet at first. I didn't want her knowing my every move. I still remembered how she always liked to spin things around, twist the story to make herself look like the victim. This time, I had proof, hard, undeniable proof, and I intended to make sure she didn't get away with her lies. The divorce process was messy. Lisa threw every tantrum possible, yelling, crying, accusing me of being paranoid, obsessed, trying to make everyone believe I was the crazy one. She played the victim, of course, claiming I was overreacting, that I was jealous and insecure. I saw right through her. That bitch was so good at lying, I knew she'd do anything to save her own skin. But I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I had enough evidence, enough hurt, and enough anger. I was done playing nice. One day she showed up at my house unannounced, crying and begging me to forgive her, saying she was sorry, that she didn't mean for any of it to happen. Her tears were fake, I could tell. She always knew how to act like she was innocent when it suited her. I just looked at her and said, "You lied to me, cheated on me, and embarrassed me in front of everyone. I don't see how I can trust you anymore. I want a divorce and I want you out of my life." That was the moment I finally decided I was serious. No more pretending, no more excuses. I was cutting her out completely. I packed her bags myself, told her she was no longer welcome at the house, and made sure she understood that this was final. I wanted her gone, and I wanted her to know she'd lost everything: her marriage, her reputation, maybe even her friends. The hardest part was seeing her face as I told her all of this. There was no remorse, no guilt, just that bitchy smirk she always wore when she thought she was in control. I realized then that she was never really sorry. She was just trying to manipulate her way out of it to save herself. That realization made my anger boil over again. She's so selfish, so cold, so utterly unworthy of the life she wanted to keep. In the days that followed, I moved on. I started spending more time with friends, focusing on my job and taking care of myself. It wasn't easy. Every time I saw her social media posts or heard from mutual friends, I felt this sharp pang of betrayal. but I also felt a strange sense of liberation. I was finally free from her control, her lies, her bullshit. I'd taken back my life. I still think about that retreat, about how she was able to hide all this from me for so long. How she convinced herself she was entitled to cheat and then lie some more to cover it up. It's made me realize something important. I was never really happy, not with her. I was just too blind or too scared to see the truth. But now I see everything clearly. I see her for what she truly is, a selfish, manipulative woman who thought she could get away with anything. Looking ahead, I'm not sure what I'll do next. Maybe I'll find someone new someday. Maybe I'll just focus on rebuilding myself. But one thing I know for sure, thanks to her, I'll never allow myself to be blindsided like that. Again, I've learned that trust is fragile and that sometimes the worst betrayals come from the people you love the most. I've wasted enough time trying to fix a broken marriage. Now, I'm finally ready to move forward with or without her. And honestly, I think I'm better off without her dragging me down. Now, looking back, I can't believe I let myself stay so long in that mess. It's like I was living in some distorted version of reality, telling myself she was just stressed, just busy, that maybe it was all just a mistake. But the truth was clear from the start. I just refused to see it. That retreat was the turning point, where everything I'd ignored finally hit me square in the face. It was the moment I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish bitch who thought she could cheat, lie, and get away with it. I've learned a lot from all this. Mostly, I've learned that trust is something you build carefully, and once it's broken, it's damn near impossible to repair. Lisa's lies, her betrayal, her constant manipulation, that all shattered any hope I had of us ever coming back from it. I wish I had seen the signs sooner, but I guess that's part of life's lessons. Sometimes it takes a big, painful wake-up call to make you realize what truly matters. Moving on isn't easy. I still get angry sometimes, still think about all the times I ignored my gut because I wanted things to work or because I loved her. But now, I realize that love isn't enough when someone's willing to throw everything away for a fling. I have no regrets about exposing her, about standing up for myself. It was the right thing, even if it hurt like hell at the time. And honestly, I feel a strange sense of peace now, like I finally took control back. The betrayal hurt, but it also forced me to wake up and see what I deserve. I want anyone reading this to know that if you're going through something similar, if you suspect your partner is cheating or lying, you need to trust your instincts. Don't dismiss your feelings or ignore the signs. Confront it head on, gather your evidence, and don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Because if you don't, you risk losing yourself in the process. I wasted so much time trying to hold the pieces of a broken marriage, thinking I could fix what was beyond repair. Turns out, sometimes the only way to fix yourself is to walk away from the toxicity. Now I'm focusing on rebuilding my life. It's not perfect. There are days when I feel lonely or angry, days I second-guess whether I did the right thing. But I know deep down that I did what I had to do. I won't let someone's betrayal define me. I'll take this pain and turn it into strength. I'll find happiness again, maybe even someone who truly values me, but never again will I ignore the warning signs or accept betrayal without consequences. If there's one thing I want to leave everyone with, it's this. Never settle for less than honesty, loyalty, and respect. Because once those are gone, everything else collapses. And if you find yourself in a situation like I was, caught in a web of lies and betrayal, remember that you're not alone and you have the power to decide your own future. Sometimes, walking away is the bravest thing you can do. And honestly, I'm finally starting to believe I deserve that.